This time each year, we bring to the Board of Education public hearing format proposed revisions as a result of each of our non-public principal discussions with all of their constituent groups, with their staff, faculty, with administrators, students, and parents, by way of faculty meetings, their shared decision-making teams, student advisory council, and also review of various incidents and issues that they dealt with throughout the year. Ultimately, the question before us this time each year is how well does our current code of conduct in its current format serve us and enable us to inform, educate, and ultimately address issues of conduct and behavior. And secondly, we need to ensure that we are always in compliance with any new recommendations or references that come from the Ministry of Education, the New York State Board of Regents, any acts of legislation. And as you recall from last year, much of our revision of the Code of Conduct, and there were some significant changes and additions and amendments, focused on the expanded scope of the amendments to the Dignity Act. And ultimately, last year, the amendments to the Dignity Act focused on, ironically, in light of some of the things that we dealt with as a district for the last several days, was to ultimately expand and extend the ability of the school district to address and deal with circumstances that may be beyond the classroom, beyond the school district, whether it be cyberbullying or bullying online, and again, outside of the district walls. And again, those provisions of the Act were instructional, making sure that we had certain aspects of our code of conduct addressed, the reporting elements and policies and guidelines, and necessary training. Ultimately, this year, to cut to the chase, there were very minimal proposed revisions to our code of conduct, and both are wording specific to sections 5300.25 under prohibited student conduct. Specifically, Section A, number 3, the addition of, in Section 3, using language and gestures that are profane, lewd, vulgar, or abusive, the recommendation has been made to add, or offensive, appropriate, and really we need to be attentive not only to how words or actions are projected, but also equally important, how they are perceived or received. It's so important that we, throughout our system, educate our students that really laws in society, specifically laws of harassment, are really not written or based upon intent, but rather how they are received or perceived. So that was one proposed revision. And the second, the same section, 5300.25, Section E, this one is number 6. Again, specific to harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and if you see here in bold, the addition, and I have to say this addition vocabulary really did come from students as well as staff. The addition of online, where such acts would create, or would foresee would create, a risk of substantial disruption within the school environment, where it is foreseeable that such conduct, threats, intimidation, or abuse might reach school property. So those are the two specific proposed provisions to our code. And obviously it is incumbent upon us as a district to continue our ongoing initiatives that educate and inform and emphasize not just the aspects of the code of conduct themselves, but positive decision-making and obviously appropriate behavior. The venues for that, K-12, right through our system, from kindergarten right through as our students are about to graduate. Student council at all levels of our school system, the various clubs. Obviously, the work of our student advisory council has been tremendous. If you recall, last year it was actually the student advisory council that led the drive to review and dissect and tear apart our code of conduct and actually review, in line with the revisions of the Dignity Act, how effectively they felt that our code of conduct was written and enabled our schools to address what they need to address. Clubs and organizations such as Chiefs Challenge, the Red Watch Band, obviously the Challenger programs, these constantly remind us of the importance of student-to-student interaction, positive role models, positive student-to-student interactions, and the benefits of addressing issues like bystanders and making sure that students across the district recognize the ability and power that they have to make a difference and to minimize the issues and the troubles that their classmates may encounter. Curricular programs such as Second Step and Too Good for Drugs. Our emphasis has always been on the social emotional side to maintain the emphasis on skill building, empathy, and I think we saw a tremendous example of that this evening. Friendship building, assertiveness training, and peer education. The key has always been and continues to be ways in which we can continue to improve and enhance our communication with parents, our faculties, staff, and our students. The most important thing is to get accurate information out to educate clearly so that students and parents understand the aspects of the code, the expectations of their behavior, so that ultimately they can be held accountable to act in a responsible way. We want to continue to promote programs and see over the last several years the growth and the enhancement and expansion of student-driven programs, student-driven activities that promote positive decision-making. There are references on our website for parents in our community to reference, specifically the Leading Act page and sub-pages, as well as other aspects of the district website that emphasize and focus on some of these tremendous initiatives that our staff has guided and led our students and that our students have led. An interesting component this year, and it came out of several organizations, not just Student Advisory, it's also come out of an organization called Massachusetts Action, which is a consortium of faculty, staff, social workers, yes, community council, community members. The idea has been eagerly embraced, and we look forward to doing this next year in a greater sense, developing webinars, short snippets, where actually our staff, and in some cases parents or other professionals, would provide small audio or video webinars with regards to some of the important programs, important aspects of our district, and things that we know as a community are important for students and staff to be aware of. So look forward to those next year. And also our Student Advisory Council that has been so instrumental in educating not only parents in terms of social media this year. If you recall back in late November, Student Advisory Council coordinated parent information night, bringing your own device to evening, where they educated parents on the appropriate uses and the dangers of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, AskFM, Facebook. They also went down to Burner and educated all 7th graders. All health classes rotated into the library Burner, and all our 7th graders met in small groups with our Student Advisory Council. So they too are looking forward to expanding the use of webinars to continue that education, because it doesn't end. The technology doesn't stop changing and evolving. We as a community can't stop educating and informing our children and one another in terms of what we need to provide a safe and secure environment for our students. So with that, take any questions, and as you know, this is the first step that will then allow Board of Education to act at the June 19th meeting on these proposed revisions here at the Surge.
Any questions from the board?
Dr. Sano, as far as using the words online, is that something that is kind of universal to things rather than saying, say, via the internet or something like that? are most of the other schools that would pose to include internet access or anything like that? Is it set to be online? Is that what you?
Sorry. They use words like online, internet, I can't say that one specific word is used, but either one I think has the meaning.
The only other thing is, if we're looking at, I'm trying to see what we have here, and they amending 5300.25, when it speaks of such acts shall include acts of harassment and bullying that occur on school property, blah, 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 and then it goes on to online, where such acts create with foreseeable great risk. We should continue, what we start, all of these paragraphs with harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, anger, discrimination, should be, every time we speak about it, all of those four components should be listed the same way throughout the whole document. Meaning that if you're going to go here where it talks about harassment and or bullying, just to repeat the same phrase all over again throughout the text of this.
So replace such conduct, specified conduct, right. Those four elements, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and discrimination.
Even at the end of add to 5300.30, we speak to the principal must report to the superintendent at least one time during the year on the data and trends related to any harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, just to repeat that phrase throughout the whole document.
Certainly. And the point about the online is that I think it's important to emphasize, again, that came from constituent groups, largely students, really is a reflection of what's going on in our society, especially in our school community. Much of the issues of problematic behavior, social interaction, or bullying, we're not seeing it necessarily face-to-face as much as we are online. And that's really, that's the point of emphasis that the issue made.
I just have a question. And a lot of my questions and comments are continuing from last year. We had a code of conduct. We gave this out to each one of the students at the beginning of the year. We give the code of conduct out to each one of the students at the beginning of the year.
The code of conduct is not necessarily handed out in paper format. It is available to all students and is referenced specifically with all students in different ways, at different levels, in an appropriate way, at elementary level, at the middle school level, and obviously in high school as well. Everything from small class discussions to class level assemblies to it being addressed in social studies classes. There are different means that assure that within the first several days, certainly within the first several weeks of school, the specifics of the code of conduct and any particular revisions that are made are addressed and made known to the students.
See, my concern is, I think a lot of the parents, I know it's in the calendar, I think probably a lot of the parents don't even know the code of conduct, they haven't read the code of conduct, and the students. I would like to see a little bit, so a lot of these things are just, as we all know, are just so critical and so important. I would like to, I don't know how it could happen, but something that they sign, yes, I've read the code of conduct, from the parents, some sort of an accountability, because probably a lot of parents don't even know that this exists, and the ramifications that will happen to their children, with their behavior. They're not even aware of that. So I would like to see that the children actually get, the students actually get it, sign it, say, I have read it, and I understand it, and the parents, that yes, I know that I've read the code of conduct, I've talked it over with my students, because people they don't know. They don't know. They just don't know. And these things are critical, and something can happen in a minute to any one of the students. So I think we have to really put a you're aware of it. I don't know how that can be accomplished, but maybe the students can sign it. The first day of school, give them a summary format of this and just say, you know, I read it, I know it can happen to me because I do these things, and I know it's not permitted. The other thing I have a question of with the, and I know I said it last year, but it's somehow it doesn't sit right with me. With the reporting of the violations, you have down here that the superintendent, if you witness somebody bullying, discrimination, or you witness harassment, the person is supposed to notify no later than one school day. A lot can happen in one school day. So they go home, something happens to a student, and that student is actually hurt, killed, or goes out to suicide to themselves over a bullying, and you know about it, and you have one day and don't report that. A lot can happen in a day.
Sure, there are certain, understood, there are certain aspects of the code that are actually worded specific based upon a piece of legislation or an aspect of a law or regulation, and as a guideline, but we can certainly speak to specifics on all levels, from elementary right to high school, where the mechanisms in place, communication, the expectations laid out for faculty go well beyond that basic premise. Ultimately, that's what the law may say, that you have an obligation as a professional to inform no later than X. But that's really not how we necessarily share information with and among our staff. The expectations are far greater than that. And in multiple cases that we experienced, certainly this year, we can point to examples where teachers don't wait, staff members don't wait more than a period.
But a child might. Like if a child witnesses something else with another child or is aware that a child is despondent over cyberbullying and wants to commit suicide and says, if they have this and they say, well, I don't have to report that till tomorrow, and something happens that evening, that's the type of thing. I think we should encourage children and students to notify somebody in the school immediately upon learning, not one day to make it seem like, okay, I can go to sleep. That bothers me.
Mr. Ryan, if I could just chime in. I think a lot of what you're talking about, which are very valid points, is the difference between a legal document of what the code of conduct is. It's not like a reading of, looking at page to page. It's more of a reference document that you address when you have a specific question that needs to be answered or you look at a specific area, versus the kinds of conversations and training and teacher-student communication that goes on a day-to-day basis. So to take the point that you're making, which is a very valid point, student isn't necessarily going to go to the code of conduct and say, oh, I've got to hold that. It's going to be more in the conversation between the student and the teacher when it comes up. Look, if you see something, you know something, it's your responsibility as soon as humanly possible to tell somebody, tell an adult, so that they can address it. And that's the way you should communicate with students, versus what you actually see in the legal document, which is giving you like the parameters of as soon as possible, but no later than one school day. And I think that's maybe where the relationship was. But rest assured, the communication we do have with students is, to the point you're making, as soon as humanly possible, you tell the adults what you can address. I don't know if that helps.
Not really. I'm just very, very sensitive. I'm very concerned about it.
Sure. Well, the good news is, Brian, I think, again, it's very useful, and teachers could share, and principals could share, and it's development for us to continue to talk about it as an administration, as a staff, as we end this school year and prepare for a new one. But kids tend to be impulsive. Kids, our experience with the students is they can't keep their mouth shut. A lot of times they'll tell someone, and whether they specifically tell an adult, someone they tell inevitably winds up telling an adult. The key here is trust. Who do they trust? The key element for us is establishing trust with and among our students across the board, whether they're 5 or 18, that there's someone in the building teacher that period, or maybe not this teacher this period, between classes, go down to my guidance counselor, or go down to see the dean, or go down and talk to the principal. And that's what we found has gone on. And I think our social workers, I think our school psychologists, I think our principals could share many experiences where that's what happens. That's far more common than your understandable, justifiable concern that a student is kind of going home with something and keeping it to themselves until a certain time. That may happen, but the expectation and what we try to share with students is if you see something, say something. But that's only going to happen really in a trusting environment if it's something that they truly feel they can't tell. And sometimes they'll tell a friend. And that may just be enough because that friend may have an adult in the school that they trust, a coach or someone, and we'll get the information that way.
Can we complete the code of conduct maybe like on parent portal, like a part of there where a parent clicks on it that they've read it? Or on haiku, online that a child clicks it, that they've read it? Can't we do something?
What you're asking is for acknowledgement that they have read this.
I think it's important. Even on the parent portal, a little section on it that they click to say that they read it. And the child also, on haiku, on their account.
You most definitely will have to.
Yeah, I think it's important. I know a lot of parents do not know what exists. And just the last thing I had, where the principal must report to the superintendent at least one time during the year, that's just more of a legal thing, because I'm sure you're notified.
I can absolutely attest to.
But that's a minimum requirement that I have.
Yes, that is just in the release. I know we did it.
Okay. All right, and I'm glad to see that you're expanding, the outreach and the webinars. I think we need constant reinforcement, which, I understand that we're doing. But I think especially with the cyberbullying, especially in Burner, when the children go to Burner, make sure that they're invincible. We do. And at that age group, middle school, high school, I think it's very important to keep reinforcing that. On the dangers of cyberbullying. Thank you.
Dr. Zeno, I want to thank you. The last 3 years I've known the work that you do as far as disciplining, particularly adolescents. It's a difficult job, and I think you do it well because you make children and adolescents understand why there are rules, and when they're broken, they understand the reason for intervention from the district. And that is probably the most important thing, the outcome of all of this, because it's to make an adolescent or a child understand the consequences of their actions. And I think you do that well, and I compliment you for it. As far as the code of conduct and having parents or students respond that they've read it, there's an old saying in the law that ignorance is no excuse. And I think that's what applies here. Just because a parent reads it doesn't mean they're going to preach it at home, nor is it going to make anyone follow the rules any differently than they are. I think this code of conduct is pretty general in nature and pretty reminiscent of what other districts have and what we've had. It's just to expand on it. So again, you've done well, the administration has done well in this aspect. And again, this is just a guide for the students. They should not obey it anyway. And again, it is no defense to say I didn't read the code of conduct if we're acting foolishly. But most of all, I think that you are very good at what you do, and I thank you for it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I think I speak for all of us at the district level. Our jobs are very, very easy because of the flow of communication from principals, the very relationship that they have with their staff, and ultimately, most importantly, the relationship that teachers have with kids. And really goes back to that trusting environment. And we try to build an environment, and it really starts from the home to the school, where kids hopefully feel safe and they appreciate the adults that they're with. So it's really a team effort.
Any other comments or questions to the board? Well, thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it very much. Anyone from the audience? Dr. Zan? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, I'm sorry, Mr. Ferrari. I don't know if you have an anti-bully club at the school. I know that Laura Campbell from the Little Mountain Crisis Center runs an anti-bullying program, and she has put together a great club that she's had a lot of success with, because the thought process, like Mrs. Ryan said, you want the kids to have some place to go, so the posters telling them what to do need to be reinforced with a safe place for them to go, where they trust people. I don't know if you have something like that.
We absolutely do. On all our levels, we have their active social workers. On the elementary level, we have friendship groups. We bring children in for conflict resolution. We do actually even go into the classrooms with many programs, so we do have those.
An actual after school, like a club that they have after school, where they can go after school and share things. You have something like that?
After school, on the elementary level, we do not.
I think she did.
Yes,
in high school.
Yeah, students
Oh,
get
say.
to make the decision.
You're right. These days, constructive decisions, constructive impact on the elementary. Very, very active on Saturday. Student activities.
I want to speak to, there's a district on Long Island that has a wider array of clubs and activities and opportunities for students to remain after school and engage with other peers and or adults. And I don't just mean formal athletics and there are even teachers that just avail themselves of being with kids. The bottom line is any club is an anti-bullying club. If you're a member of an organization, if you get involved with the musical, if you get involved with, and you put it on our list and they're on our website, there is something for everyone. If you engage in a club, that's the anti-bullying club that exists. Because if one kid finds a friend or two or three that have common interests, that's all we need.
I know two kids in the high school that were being bullied, and it was handled very well. Joanne Waters and Mr. Howard have an unbelievable relationship with the kids, and I know that Mr. Howard, that's not his primary job, but the kids love him, and we'll go to him for things like, you guys do have a lot of great things.
We get involved during lunchtime, which is wonderful.
Thank you.
Christine Farina, sorry, 230 Ontario Avenue. I understand Mrs. Ryan's concern, and now that the calendar does not come home in paper form, I tend to agree with her that a lot of parents are not, they don't really realize there's a code of conduct and what is in the code of conduct. So I don't know about an acknowledgement, but perhaps since we have that email notification, that would be a great way to shoot it out to everybody and encourage it. I think it's about encouraging parents to read it on their own and have discussions at home with their children on what the proper etiquette is in school and the behavior. So perhaps that also could be done, being that we don't have that paper calendar. My question, though, is with the Dignity Act. I just want to confirm that the Dignity Act covers everyone, from the students to the parents to the teachers, administrators, right up to the Board of Education, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and I thought it was interesting that you mentioned how it's the way things are received, not necessarily the intent. So my question is, would it be breaking the spirit of the Dignity Act if the reception of how a decision is made in the district, how it's perceived to, let's say, gay and lesbian students?
Certainly issues that relate to students, any student, if they have a concern, if they're feeling alone, left out, harassed, discriminated against, that's the focus of the law, to make sure that there's an opportunity opportunity for that concern to be heard, and it's an obligation on the part of the building, the teachers, the administration, and ultimately we as a district to make sure it's addressed. So would that fall under that umbrella? Sure, and if there was such a concern, we would want to make sure that we're
So
addressed.
irrespective of someone's personal feelings or religious beliefs in regard to being a gay or a lesbian student, by their actions in their professional positions, if it's perceived that the student is not supported, that would be a violation of the Dignity Act.
It would certainly be an issue where there could be a complaint raised.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Seeing no hands, I thank you, Dr. Lozano, very much. And we'll move on to Mrs. Iconis and the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. My superintendent's report is available online, and I encourage you to read that. But there are some items that I would like to address this evening. First of all, I know that everyone is aware, at least I hope so, that there was an issue at the high school today. It was communicated via our website, as well as the email blasted in. And I just would like to take a few moments just to summarize what I've heard and our response to it, because I'm quite proud of the way we handled it. We were informed by a parent that got hold of a Facebook page that there were some threats that were made against a high school by two former Massapequa High School students. We immediately contacted the police department, who came into the school and did speak with Dr. Williams and the administration at the high school. The investigators then went out, the detectives, and they did actually go to the homes of these two former Massapequa High School students, did interrogate them, and late last night I received information from the detective and the inspector that there had been an arrest. Today, those two young people were arraigned in the building. I don't have any additional information. I haven't spoken with the detectives. But we immediately put our plans into place. I'm very proud of the security provisions that we have here in the district. We worked with our security department to make sure everyone is safe. We worked with the Nassau County Police Department and the District Attorney's Office. And we're very happy to report that things are under control. And as I said, we're very proud of the way this district responded to it, because we got the information out to the parents and the families and the staff, the people that needed to know immediately. Okay? So I just wanted to let you know. I know that I hear this on Channel 2. I know that it's on News 12, and I'm sure that Newsday will have a story tomorrow. But we're absolutely safe, and I'm happy to report that. Okay. Next, our budget results. First of all, I'd like to thank this community so very much for supporting our budget. This was really the largest in district history, 72% voter approval. And we regard that as your affirmation that we're doing a good job with the educational program here, and we're fiscally responsible. And thank you for that. Our school district trustees, Mrs. Ryan was reelected with a term, and Mr. Gary Wallner was elected to the board beginning on July 1st. We thank Mr. Gary Rebate. He gave 3 years of dedicated service to the board and to the students of this district, and we will recognize him at the next board meeting. But let's have a round of applause for the board. Just a little bit of housekeeping. The first board meeting of the new school year, which officially begins on July 1st, will be moved. It's listed on the calendar as July 1st. It's going to be moved to July 15th because of a scheduling conflict. We will put out an email blast concerning that. Next, I have to mention BOE Reports. Okay, so, Mr. Kurakawa says it's just beginner's luck as a superintendent, but this is the first time that the lacrosse team has ever been in the Long Island champs. I take no credit for that. But this Saturday at 11 a.m. at Hofstra University, they will be vying for the state championship. So if you are so inclined, come out and root for our boys. Also, the boys baseball team, we're the National County Champs, and the Long Island Championship is this Sunday at 7:30 at Carmondale State College. Now, I'd like to address the whole issue of field testing for one moment. I know that I did receive a few letters, and what I tried to do is anyone who wrote to me, I intended to reach out to them and to personally speak with them. Now, for those of you who may or may not be aware, field testing is actually a requirement of New York State. Any grades that take the operational New York State tests in ELA and mathematics are expected to take the field tests. Field tests are administered in one 40-minute sitting. They're either given in ELA or mathematics. Now, in our schools, we started, I would say, 2 days ago, or yesterday, and we will conclude for some of the schools next week. Okay? If I look, here's the issue. Many parents felt very strongly that they did not want their children to participate in field tests simply because of the excessive testing that New York State is involved with. And what we did in the district, as I said, is we honored all of those test refusal letters that were sent to us in the same manner that we honored the test refusal letters of the operational tests. Children were permitted to sit and to read quietly. That's how we handled it. At Berner, we had our, large percentage of test refusers. Mrs. Thomas?
Yes, it was about 36%.
About 36%.
Seventh grade, all seventh grade.
Yes, it was only 7th grade. See, it wasn't every grade that gave the test. In some cases, it was 3rd grade, some 4th, actually, Birch Lane was a winner. They are Birch Lane. You were selected by New York State to administer math in grades 3 and 4. But we were our only school that actually had 2 grades. The state arbitrarily assigns seats. We have no control over it. And here's the issue, and I know that parents did say to me, Mrs. Connors, why don't you send these tests back? Districts like Syosset and Belmore are sending you back. Breakneck. Okay, here I go. Here's the truth. We all know that these tests can be improved. They need to be improved. In some cases, they're developmentally inappropriate. In other cases, they're far too ambiguous and difficult. The purpose of field testing is to check the validity of the test samples. And that's what I like to call it, test samples. That's what you do in research. So, if you're and you're most definitely part of the problem. That's why we participate in the field tests. It's also our obligation. I have an obligation as superintendent of schools on an oath I took to administer those field tests. For me to make the decision as superintendent to say, send them back, and I'm making the decision for every parent who wants their child to participate in the field test. I never said we wouldn't honor what we honored for the operational tests. Now, just to give you a point of reference, Rockville Center, that happens to be, I think, the epicenter of the test refusal movement in Long Island, they have the highest percentage of kids who opted out or refused the test. They're participating in the field tests for the same reasons that I felt that we needed to participate in the field tests. This is a way to check the validity and appropriateness of the questions. This is a way to improve the tests. The tests are not going away. There was some argument about Pearson having a corner on the market. And Pearson is the creator of the test. Well, before Pearson had a corner on the market, CTV Memorial had a corner on the market because they were the people who created the first round of tests. So field tests have been around for a very long time. And that's how in education, as in any sort of research-based profession, you improve things. So that's the reason why we did participate in the tests. And some people say, well, these other districts that sent them back, what's going to happen to them? I don't know, but I do know this. And I know that Diversios at the end of the table can most definitely, council can most definitely support this. As superintendent, I'm obligated to administer them. I can be removed as superintendent, or members can, because of the oath that we took. Also, the state can withhold state aid. Okay? So for all those reasons, but for me, the most important reason is that if you're not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. So that's why we administer the field tests. If anybody would like to discuss it with me, you know my number, give me a ring, and I'll be happy to sit with you over a cup of coffee and talk about it. Okay? Okay. And the last point that I would like to announce, this is very exciting, and I don't even know who knows about this yet, but hot off the press, Mr. Harrington, our curriculum associate for English language arts, came to me very late in the day, and he said, we were just notified by the New York State English Council that the Massapequa High School Catch a Wave program has been named the 2014 Program of Excellence. I'd like to read this quote. It gives me great pleasure to inform you that the New York State English Council has selected your school's submission, Massapequa High School Trilogy of Charity, for a New York State Council Program of Excellence Award. We received many programs that were of extremely high quality, so selecting our recipients was a challenge. Ultimately, we found your program to be clearly of exceptional merit and innovation. It is a program that includes teachers, students, families, and community members. The nature of this program touches the lives of many and contributes to lifelong learning. We are very, very proud. This program incorporated it incorporated clubs, it incorporated parents, students. It raised $4,000. Okay, you will have a whole presentation on this. But this is hot off the press. Nobody knows that you guys in this audience, and we're very, very proud of our high school. So wanted to highlight this evening, and if there are any questions, I can take them.
Any questions? Or questions in the audience? Seeing no hands, thank you, Ms. Lefferts.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Adcock, the school board secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I'd like to talk about another outstanding program in Massachusetts schools, and that is the school student meal program and nutrition program. A program that has a long history of excellence and success and profitability in Massachusetts schools. In fact, about 3 years ago, when the New York State Office of Food Service Management came down and audited the routine auditing program, we received the highest marks from them. And they actually took some of the recipes that we have, as well as the outstanding organization that we were able to demonstrate with that program back to the state to use as a model for other school districts. So the program has truly been outstanding. If you are a student in the audience, a former student in the audience, you know how excellent that program is and how hard and dedicated food service workers are, assistant cooks, our cooks, and our school lunch director. I guess about 2 years ago, things started to change quite a bit in food service. Although New York State had a long-standing criteria for delivering meals, meaning that you had to account for a certain fat content, a certain carbohydrate content, really a scientifically based formula to make sure that you were delivering nutritious meals. The federal government implemented a program that really spoke to the food that schools can serve, the quantity of the food that those schools can serve, and price. And I'm going to speak about all three of them. First, when it comes to food, I think Massapequa, it used to be called, or basically called Massa Pizza, has more pizzerias in Massapequa than any other community. Maybe on the line. I don't know that factually, but I'm just assuming. Sounds good. So I doubt that there are, although there may be some, and I certainly don't disparage against the people that would go down to Gino's and order a gluten-free pie and whole wheat bread. But I would venture to say that the lion's share of Massapequans go in and order a large pot of extra cheese and a few toppings and take it to go even with the case and make it more. Well, the federal government came along and said, you can't offer pizzas, those types of pizzas anymore. You got to offer pizzas with on whole wheat bread, whole wheat dough, and with a certain kind of cheese, like that ultra skim cheese, the stuff that you can kind of see right through. So they did this, and they began this in the 2012-13 school year. In addition to that, they told us chicken nuggets, a staple for youngsters these days. Those chicken nuggets had to be cooked or had to be breaded with whole wheat bread. So the taste of the chicken nuggets changed. Burgers. I can't see any of my kids going down to All American and ordering a double on whole wheat bread. That's, Now, some people might, that's fine, but I don't see most mass people doing that. Again, in ordering a hamburger or a hot dog, we were forbidden from offering those on white bread. They had to be on whole wheat bread. Again, the sales, as you would expect from a school lunch program, as many school lunch programs, not just in New York State, but from New York to California, right like this. And as a result, if you Google these days that issue, you will come up with a whole host of articles that start off like this. Angry students blame first lady for ruining lunch, eat photos of small portions. Okay? So there are all many of them there. So with regards to the food, okay, kids just, they don't eat the food, I don't blame them. Because the lion's share of mainstream Massachusetts don't eat pizza on whole wheat bread. Okay? With regards to quantity, the feds also said, look, for the kids that do want the meals, the same portion that a first or second grader gets Well, now the 7th and 8th graders has to get. I don't know, we have our food service staff in-house, so it may even be up to high school, but the portion size was significantly curtailed. I know in my time in Massapequa, when I was in elementary school, and I went through the lunch line, I would give a little smile to the lunch lady, and she'd give me an extra scoop of whatever they were serving that day. Well, you know what? Can't do it anymore. Because the portion size has been significantly curtailed. So as a result of that, compared with what the district was serving 2 years ago, same period of time, September through May, compared to what the district was serving in the last year, it didn't have to have these regulations. We're serving about 113,000 less lunches. 113,000 less lunches. In 2011-12, we served 528,000 to 428,000 lunches. And this year, we're about 315,000. So what do you think that's done to the profitability of our program? Through absolutely no fault of any of our staff. In fact, our staff has been wonderful in working with the district trying to recover profitability. Last year, the district lost $131,000 in the program. That was last year. So, we looked at the program this year. We had a new food service director, and we thought, well, this is an awesome program. We cannot lose this program. We must maintain the program in Massapequa. So, along with our food service director, we started to go out to the schools, work with the kitchens. We've had 7 meetings, labor management meetings with the union, and I think we had it to a place where we stopped the bleeding somewhat. We're still going to take a loss this year, but there's been a number of things that we've done to try to get the profitability back in the program. And I'm going to let Paul Ackerman, who is our food service director, just say a few words and just indicate to you some of the things that he's done in collaboration with others in the district to get the school lunch back up and where it needs to be. Paul?
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. With the help of my great team here that's supporting me tonight, what I tried to do on my first year here is do like a hands-on approach with all the schools. I tried to get out to the schools. I visited all the PTAs, got their feedback of what the kids were looking to eat, what they like, what they dislike. I visited with the student council in McKenna, had a great meeting with them. They told me plenty of stuff that they wanted to see. We did a kid vote at the voting day, 2 questions geared to food service. We also had like school lunch boxes in each cafeteria where they put suggestions in, and we got all that data along the way. We started that in probably December, and we just collected everything and used everything, and we made a whole list, like an action plan of what we could change. And tasting products, I got to all the elementaries and a couple of secondaries. We did product tasting using vendors. They give me stuff that, hey, you want to try this new pizza? We tried the new pizza. The kids loved it. It's a stuffed crust pizza. It's still whole wheat, but it's better. The cheese is like more of a blend where it melts better, and the kids really enjoyed it. We increased brunch for lunch. They wanted to see brunch for lunch. It used to be once, now it's 3 times. So we're just trying different things like that with their help. Everybody's working hard, and we're trying to get as much business as we can. We also, through the high school, we did a lunch to desk program where we capture all these lovely people to get them to order lunch right from the high school, and special ed department with Gene's help, they deliver the food right to your desk. So we're getting all the business that we can possibly capture, and we're trying to get that for next year.
Thank you. So in addition to that, there are some other ideas that we're going to be discussing, and we've had some management meetings, and there's been some good ideas, productive ideas shared. And we're going to go out, really hit the ground running in 2014-15 school year to try to again improve and get our lunchtime done. One other thing to talk about, and that is the third component of what the feds are regulating, and that is price. So not only do they want to tell us what foods we can serve, as in the whole East, they don't really serve them large quantities of, the quantity of the food, but they also want to regulate the price. And they basically come and told us that we're undercharging the program by 10 cents. So there's a resolution. There's actually a formula that can calculate, what the average price of a meal has to be in Massapequa to meet the school meal program, the National School Lunch Program. I don't know if it's a recommendation, quite honestly, that we would have made to raise the price a dime, because we certainly want to continue to make it financially attractive for families to buy the meals. And there was a time, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, when we did raise the price 25 cents in 1 year. We thought that we would keep it constant. But with regard to the federal intervention, we're required by federal law, mandate, to raise the price 10 cents and get the weighted average price of a lunch from $2.36 to $2.46 for the next school year. So you will see a resolution later in the agenda approving that. And the reason it's being done in this meeting and not in the reorganization meeting is that we're in the process of developing a calendar, and we want the new meal prices to go on the calendar, and they'll be on before the reorganization meeting on July 15th. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions the Board of Education might have.
Thank you, Mr. Radcliffe, for the presentation. And thank you for doing such a good job to increase the sales. And, I'm sure it's very hard with the campus and the high school, being open, that affects us also. But maybe we can look to see our children, if they go to the cyber cafe to do work, to buy lunch also, or order something, that they might like to eat. That's something that we can do also. But thank you.
Ready? Yes, all the kitchen people, thank you for doing a great job that you do. It is important to have people who live in this, people also work in our kitchens. I think they have personal interest that way for our students. It's not an easy job. It's an unsung hero's job, is what it is. Because it is important that our children are given decent food that is handled properly. And this is, I think we can all thank you for the awesome work. Thank you very much. Anything else? Mr. Eric, on the tax rebate program.
Yes, I think, again, Mr. Bennett, this is an initiative that has been developing from the governor's office, from the County Reformer's office. It has to do with a tax rebate program for property taxes for homeowners for the 2014-15 school year. Basically, what the governor has said is that there was a webinar today on the program, which mass people participated and got some information on. If you're a homeowner and you are eligible for the basic star exemption, and the school district stays within the confines of the school district's tax cap for next year, the state of New York, somewhere in the October-November timeframe, should be sending out rebate checks for the total tax increase on your individual, or school tax increase on the individual home for, again, all community members in districts and communities where the school district stays within the tax cap and is eligible for basic star, or the star exemption. And so the next phase in that has to do with getting some information from New York State, a certification form that will be sent to the superintendent of schools and to me, in which we will need to certify that we are staying within the tax cap. As you know, back in April, at the April 4th meeting, the Board of Education gave me some direction with regard to what the tax levy should be. And at that point in time, we had received approximately $731,000 additional dollars in aid. And what the board did at that time, again, while all this was developing, was direct the administration to lower the taxes below the tax cap, lower them $465,000 to a 1.98% increase versus a 2.29% increase, which is capital for us. I need to bring this information to your attention, and then I need some further direction. So let me just explain. The state next year, for all homeowners, as long as you stay, as long as the district stays at or below the tax cap, will rebate the homeowner for their entire tax increase. Assessment changes included to the individual homeowner. If the school district taxes $465,000 less, in essence, the community or the district is passing up $465,000 less from the state. It's losing out on that. So my question is this: does the board want to consider the taxes in Massachusetts at the cap level of 2.29%, or putting $465,000 change back, knowing full well that the resident who's impacted by that $465,000 next year will get that money back from New York State? Or you want to keep it the way it is? So I did a little analysis. Basically what it does is, if you look at the difference in that, and what that $465,000 means to tax levy in the average home, it's just a shade over $21 to the average home. But according to the governor's tax rebate program, any additional taxes caused by that going up to the cap level will be rebated and sent back to the homeowner. I bring this to your attention and ask for direction because we certainly need to know this, and the district doesn't want to be cited or criticized for not having the knowledge, not being explained that if you want to keep that $465,000 out of taxes, that's fine. Just know that the district loses out on that $465,000 because it's being rebated back to the homeowner. So do we want to, as a community, knowing that the money will come back to the homeowner, do we want to bring the tax levy to the cap level versus where it is now? That's the question.
What assurance do we have that that money will go back to the people?
There was a webinar today. It was hosted by the New York State Comptroller's Office. This is the handout and printout from it. It lists the detailed specifics of the program and the step-by-step of what school district can expect next to be able to certify that. It's indicated that the money should be returned to the taxpayer again, irrespective of how your assessment changes. Because we all know, no matter what community you're in Nassau County, if the school district goes out with a 1 or 2% increase, there's going to be some people that get 5% increases and some people that get decreases, based on how their assessments change, relative to how the other assessments of their neighbors change. So what the state has said is that, we're not just going to give someone 2% back. We're going to get information from the New York State Office of Real Property Services and the Nassau County Department of Assessment, and to the extent that someone's total school property taxes change, irrespective of assessment, we're going to rebate that money back.
Does the homeowner have to do anything, or fill anything out, or apply, or register, or anything?
The homeowner, as you know, New York State recently went through, within the last year, a refiling of the STAR program.
Right, so that's their only criteria?
You have to be eligible for the STAR program, yes. And the school district has to be with at or below the tax cap limit.
Is there a deadline in which we can do this?
The deadline that the superintendent has to certify would be July 21st. So by July 21st, superintendents throughout New York State will have to certify, or not, that they're at or below the cap level and what that level is. Now that also puts a little bit of a timeline, change in timeline with regard to tax levy. Because as you know, in Nassau County, the school district must set the tax levy by August 15th. But the state is saying that we need to know what that tax levy is going to be, and the superintendent needs to certify and file that by July 21st. So we could certify and file that so far, the 1.98%, which is $465,000 below the cap, or the district could take advantage of this tax rebate program and bring the number up to the cap, knowing that the homeowner will be rebated for the additional money up to the cap.
Now, we have any legalities in regards to that, our voters just approved the budget that
the voters don't approve the tax levy, the voters approve of the spending of the budget. So certainly there is, and there could be from the time the voters approve the budget, and there has been in this community, from the time the voters approve the budget to the time the tax levy is set by the board, there has been new information that's known that has caused boards of education in this community to change the amount of that tax levy. We've been notified at times that between the time the budget is approved and August 15th, when the tax levy is set, we've gotten some additional aid. In those cases, the board has made the commitment to lower the tax levy a bit, so lowering it a bit after the community vote. In this particular case, the only reason I believe that we want to consider bringing them up to the cap level is because New York State is going to rebate that money. And what it would help you do in bringing it up to the cap level, it would certainly help the school district to the extent of $465,000 going into the 14-15, 15-16 school year, okay, from now. When that budget is over, when that budget is developed, in preserving some program and having some additional fund balance to offset taxes.
it's a no-brainer. You can trust the state, the legislature.
I can absolutely share with you, and I would be glad to email the presentation that was made today by the New York State Office of the New York State Comptroller. And I would say that if you can, and I don't know how to say this, but if you can believe in this program and what the governor and what the New York State Office of the Comptroller is saying with regard to this, then, as you said, it's
Staff Director, I have a question. Are there any strings or attachments to that giving you that money?
no,
Zero.
no strings. Now, there is a phase 2 of this. Now, that phase 2 takes place a year from now. There is a 2-year program. We're going to talk about what needs to happen in year 2. Because year 2, while it doesn't have any, let's see, I'm not going to say this accurately. The only change in year 2 is that basically the school district has to demonstrate a 1% decrease in its expenditures to year 2. And I don't quite know exactly how to do that yet. And I think it's going to be very difficult for communities throughout New York State to be in compliance with year 2 of this. But in year 1, the only thing that stands in the way of rebate would be star eligibility, and the district has to maintain spending within the budget.
So what you're saying is that if we do it, next year we have to reduce what we spend by 1%?
Quite honestly, I don't know, and I don't believe all of the details have to be completely explored and flushed out with regard to, I just know that component of it, but I don't know the specific details of any certification and how it's done. I will, as this year unfolds, get the specific information on how programming will do those. But in year 1, we're talking about right now, the tax levy that you will be putting into a resolution in August, it just needs to be star eligible and stay within tax.
So if I understand what you just said, if the taxpayers receive money back this year, the district and the employees are going to have to come up with 1% next year. It's something, somebody's going to have to come up with 1%.
It's something to talk about as we know more information.
But if we vote on it, we're locked into it, correct? We have to
well, what you're locked into is you are locked into the resolution we passed before August 15th, advising national counties to levy a certain amount of taxes. So, because the superintendent has to certify by July 21st, probably have to make that decision at the next board meeting. Thank you.
Do you have to go into the second phase of this if you go into the first phase of it?
You do not.
Is that your question?
You do not. Each year works independently of the other. So a community may be eligible in year one, but not necessarily eligible in year two.
That's my very first question. Have you seen any of these resolutions come through on this type of information? We see people talk about it, but I can't tell you for sure that they've actually passed their resolutions. The meetings that we've been at, they haven't, but that may not be because of anything other than they're in the process of considering. I think, for myself, I have to read into it a lot more. I just think it's very convenient, isn't this year an election year? That instead of giving us the additional state aid for the school, that they're tying it in to the cap. And I would want to actually, as a district, submit some questions to the state controller and get it in writing from the governor that what we're actually tied into. Because I know when I read the preliminary budget, the governor's budget, I read about that and I was very troubled by that 1% reduction. Because that's a way of pitting a community against a school district. For us, a 1% reduction is a lot of money. And how I understand it in year two, if we don't reduce by 1%, the homeowners don't get a rebate. So now everybody's unhappy, but we're only cutting $2 million out of our budget. And that's irresponsible under a tax cap to do that. That really is without increased state aid. So I would want to actually formally send them questions, get a legal interpretation of it, get our attorneys to sign off on it before we agree to anything. Because, I just have to have it writing and a legal opinion and have that really vetted out. As far as the, to bring the tax cap back up to the 2.29, how does that affect us regardless of the 1% reduction? Well, maybe not regardless of the 1% reduction. How does that affect our ability to set the tax cap in the next year?
Well, yes, so what it does is it basically starts you off with a tax base that's $465,000 higher. So it buys the district programs and services that, again, we don't know what the CPI is going to be next year and what that's going to be. This year it was 1.46%. 7 years ago, I want to say 3 years ago, the CPI was 0. We don't know what it's going to be 10 months from now, 9 months from now. So it would just buy $465,000 of, I'll call it, program preservation.
How are they going to pay everybody with the assessment set also? So if somebody got this $5,000 increase, or they're going to take homeowner A $5,000 and homeowner B $1,000, they're going to pay everybody all this money?
I'm going to give you my take on it. Okay? There are many people throughout this community in Nassau County who probably spend somewhere between 40 and 50% of their tax certiorari savings on attorneys and so forth, because many of them read their taxes, they get their assessment knocked down, and then they pay 50% of what they save to a law firm. Okay? So if you're in a situation where you've gone out, you've done the tax cert, you paid half of that tax cert savings to an attorney,
Right.
and now you find out that the people who didn't appeal their assessments are getting all of that money back, and you're not getting done back because your taxes actually went down. I don't even laugh at it.
That's a good point. They should reimburse the people for the money that they spent.
But that's not how it works. as a resident in Nassau County with this program, I feel a little aggravated because I've gone to the tax cert, I've paid half of the, what the reduction in the assessment has saved me to a firm that does the work for me. And then now I find out that someone who didn't appeal the taxes is going to get all the money back from the state. I want to be a little aggravated with that. But, the way the program is designed to work, and Nassau County is somewhat of an anomaly when it comes to assessment and property taxes in the state of New York. The way it's supposed to work is that if you're STAR eligible and your school district stays within the tax cap, at or below the cap, the state will refund you any increase in your school taxes, irregardless of your assessment change. Any increase in your school taxes.
Most of the districts are at the tax cap. Not too many went over the tax cap.
Some exceeded the cap. I think that there were 6 districts in Nassau, 3 of them passed, 3 of them failed, all on Island. But I'm sure that there are a number of districts that are probably below the cap right now. And the reason I'm bringing you this information is because I feel I have a fiduciary responsibility and obligation to let you know that, yes, you did the right thing. You used some of the state aid money to reduce the taxes. Understood. But because of this program, I wouldn't want to see anyone criticizing the school district for not taxing back up to the gallon level and losing out on $465,000 because the homeowners is going to be doing those things.
So instead of trying to fix the assessment system, to get a more equitable, they're just going to take people.
It's 2 separate things. The Nassau County assessment system and this
And is the
program.
state controller's office endorsing this with the governor?
Yeah.
He's endorsing it out, and he said it's good.
His picture is on the presentation. It says welcome.
You can get us the information on that, Alan. The
Sure.
information
He
and
does.
I'd like to watch the right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ackman, when will the people receive their rebate check?
Somewhere in the October-November time frame.
So they get their check.
It's the, somewhere, it seemed like it was very closely tied to the election in November. When the checks will be received.
Okay, so they get their bill when?
The tax bills come out in October.
Okay. And then just after they get up off the floor, they go in the mailbox and they take this rebate check out of their mailbox? Okay. So, if we were to put that money back into the budget,
Yes.
and right now as it stands, it's $21 per household at $400,000.
Yes, so that would be the effect on the average home to add the $465,000 back, $21.
That would be, okay.
Just the effect of the $465 going back into the tax.
Okay, so what is it without you? I forgot.
It's the increase on the average home is about $134 a year.
Without doing that?
What's that?
Without
the $465. The way the Board of Education approved the tax levy back on April 4th, the average home is approximately $134 annually.
And if we were to put it back in?
It would be $21 more than that, so $155.
Do you think we'll be able to get some more information in the next meeting in 2 weeks?
Absolutely, yes.
And, Mr. Garcia, do you think we'll be able to get us some more information as far as the legalities of this?
Looking through the fact that I think we already issued a memo that contains the law in this area, but we're going to take a look at it and see if there's something further.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move on to number 9, resolution. Resolve to review this case including IEP recommendations as per the attached. Any motion? Second?